Well, it's a good thing all of February is dead on the recruiting calendar because this brand new coaching staff in Blacksburg certainly has a whole lot to think about coming out of the weekend and even beyond as we welcome you back into another edition of Kolby's Corner coming to you here from a more thawed out Blacksburg, Virginia on Monday, February 2nd, year of our Lord 2026. We'll get into a little bit of a recruiting rundown. I know they get stale this time of year, but a lot of updates still trickling out from the weekend. A little bit of the early official visit buzz as prospects are setting up official visits. Signing day, does it still exist? This Wednesday is officially the signing period, although that's pretty much been completely wiped out by the early signing period in December. So we'll talk that, some news around college football, and maybe even get into big old number 54. Shout out VT Scoop, 54th birthday for James Franklin. Raced out of class, got over here, so we'll jump into it all. If you have questions, dump them in the live chat. If not, make sure to subscribe to the show, like the video, share it with a friend, and have a ton of content rolling out throughout this week. Here set to talk to some coaches on Wednesday. I know I've been egging this on, but really excited for some of the content that it sounds like we're going to be able to trickle out from Wednesday, some availability with the coaches. So subscribe to the show, like the video, and also, if you're not, there's absolutely no better time to join vtscoop.com, get a VIP subscription. You get 2 months of VIP access for $1 or 50% off annual VIP subscription, 50% off up until February 5th. It's an incredible deal. I highly recommend you go check it out. Exclusive VIP message board, transfer portal, recruiting, team scoop as we get into winter workouts and team workouts. Kendall Fuller was in town today. There's a ton of stuff going on, or excuse me, Kyle Fuller. A ton of stuff going on. So make sure to get over to vtscoop.com. Great value. Submit questions there. Insider access, message board, great value. Also subscribe to the show because, like I said, we got a ton of exciting content. And thank you guys because it really does mean the world. I know you got to sell out at the front and get people to subscribe, but truly it means the world and it helps me out a lot. So thank you guys. But without further ado, let's get right into it. It was a very busy weekend, snowy weekend. Saw the pictures coming out on social media of me, obviously snapping the picture of Caden Kraft, top 247 quarterback from Lake Norman High School down there in Mooresville, Virginia. We touched on some of those updates in the last Kolby's Corner that I posted on Saturday. But even after that, on Saturday, there were more updates coming out. One of those was top 247 and the number one player in Virginia, Chris Whitehead. He was expected on campus on Saturday, and he made it. And stemming out of that trip, he set up an official visit, as we'll get into. His official visit is going to be set for May 29th and 31st, that first initial weekend. And this is a trend that we'll get into as we talk into official visits. When you looked at Pry, and a little bit of his philosophy was get these guys on campus, make sure that they feel secure, and then, maybe even backpile a lot of these commits getting on campus. I think James Franklin's approach, and as you'll see as some of these early official visits have already been set up, is let's get as many of these guys on campus as soon as possible and try and shut these down. Whereas opposed to where Pry was maybe a little more backloaded, you can see in how they've scheduled a lot of these early ones, they're getting top targets on campus very, very early. So here's the first one. Sounds like the visit went really well for Chris Whitehead. Sooners, Tennessee, Ohio State, a ton of different programs in the mix, but Virginia Tech is definitely making a push. Number 5 edge in the country. All the measurables. Saw him camp live at Baltimore a year ago. And, traits off the chart. So number 1 player in Virginia, got him on campus. Also not pictured, but the number 1 player in Virginia for the class of 2028, Langston Pridgeon from Stonebridge in Ashburn, Virginia. Christian Evans, Virginia Tech, defensive lineman, alum there. He, as well with Keith Nolan, the number 2 player in 2028, and the brother of Kedrick Golston, Tennessee commit, who was here for the Tennessee game. Caden Golston were all there from Stonebridge. So a couple 28 guys to keep an eye on. But going back to 2027, another name that was on campus that is worth noting is Olu. If you're watching on video, you understand why I'm not going to try and say that name. And he goes by Olu, but top 247, top 60 player, number 7 offensive tackle in the country from St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City, New Jersey. Getting him on campus as well with his teammate Ryan Wooten was super big on Saturday. They went bowling, talked to all the coaches, had a great meeting with Matt Moore. He has not set up an official visit yet, but making a big move there up in Jersey, a territory that Virginia Tech hasn't recently made some headway in, but definitely with Franklin's footprint and some of his coaching staff's footprint, you can see why they're extending into that territory, certainly. Another one that was on campus Saturday into Sunday, Ryan Robbins. His mom, actually, Kim Seaver, was on the Virginia Tech women's basketball team in the late 90s, a team that went to the Sweet 16. So there's a connection. On his visit, he earned an offer from Upper St. Clair, Pennsylvania, Upper St. Clair High School. Got quite a few under-the-radar offers, and he earned Virginia Tech. On the visit, Legacy, sounds like that visit went really, really well. No official visit locked in yet, but you could see some movement there. They've sent out a ton of offers to offensive line recruits, as well as, honestly, on the defensive line. So could see some movement there as well. Next up, another guy who was able to make it to campus, and some of his teammates weren't at Huguenot. You talk about Ivy and Lewis, who we'll get into on official visits. Kai Rayner, his teammate, cornerback, was also able to make it. But top priority safety, Zavon Miller from Huguenot, Richmond, Virginia. Great connection with Fontel Mines. Virginia Tech's done a great job here. True center fielder, safety, 6'3", 185. Number 13 player in Virginia, getting him on campus. And I believe, he got the official visit locked in also for that first weekend, May 29th to 31st. Same as his teammate. So that was big as well, getting him. Another OV that got locked in on the visit, wide receiver / athlete, probably projects as a wide receiver, Tajay Watson from Anderson, South Carolina, came up on Saturday and locked in his OV for June 5th to the 7th. So that second weekend and second official visit weekend, first one in June. And that's another one. We have questions about it. The wide receiver board sent out a ton of offers. So it's going to be interesting to see. Another wide receiver from Suffolk, Virginia, down in the 757, Kings Fork, Anthony Henderson. Have a VIP article up on him over on vtscoop.com for some more insight. Make sure to go check that out, vtscoop.com. But Anthony Henderson, someone who I think is very under the radar, saw him live twice now. And this honestly reminds me a little bit about Matthew Alton. When you think about him a couple cycles ago, unrated, didn't really blow up. And then by the end of it, commits to Penn State and then flips to Syracuse this last cycle, but was really under the radar, had no offers, not ranked at IC Norcom and Portsmouth, and then really exploded. Finished high school a top 5 player in Virginia. Anthony Henderson, I think, is a guy who has that similar upside. I think he's really underrated, and he has an official visit locked in June 19th to 21st. Talking about a lot of wide receivers, and I think that's why February is going to be so massive for this coaching staff, because there's guys they feel good on, there's guys they like, but they are certainly still in the early stages of building out their board. There's a lot of work to be done there. Next, I think that touches on most of the recruits that we didn't follow up on the last video on the channel on Saturday. If you want to go check that one out, as well with, like I said, Caden Golston had a good visit. Dylan Littell had a nice visit from Ohio, offensive tackle. Riley Drew down from Georgia had a nice visit. So there's still quite a bit. We talked about the 2028 quarterback. That was really the only quarterback in note, Caden Kraft. Kevin Parker from Denby made it up on Sunday. So they had quite a few guys, but I think those were the most massive, important updates. You can go check out on the website. I have updates on Brock Frisbee, defensive lineman who earned an offer on the trip, Dylan Littell, A.K. Kermel, who set up an official visit. All of that is over on VT Scoop. So that was a good synopsis. I know recruiting gets really tough to cover, and it can be a lot. So feedback is appreciated if you still want to see it on the show. I know it's a lot different than the transfer portal because you're not as familiar with the players, but trying to deliver that in a happy medium. But yeah, if you're just joining, subscribe to the show, like the video. Moving on, we'll touch on it a little bit. This official visit, you're starting to see guys schedule officials earlier and earlier. It's February 2nd. Virginia Tech's already got quite a few guys on the books, and you're allotted, 75 a year, and they've already got quite a few on the books. So we'll pull this up, and you can find this over on vtscoop.com. I know I keep promoting it, but it really is your one-stop shop, and with the deal, it's just a great deal to not pass on. So here's the names and some of the dates. So Chris Whitehead, we just touched on, top 247 edge from Richmond. Gabe Jenkins, top 247 safety, who was set to visit Virginia Tech. Do not believe he officially made it, but he was also supposed to visit USC and chose Virginia Tech over them on the books. Ivan Lewis got snowed in, wasn't able to make it, but I think Virginia Tech sits in a good place with him. He's the number 6 player in Virginia, number 2 wide receiver. Ryan Jackson, also a highly rated edge. Quintarius Gibson, Mooney Gibson, coming off a little bit of an injury, it sounds like. Georgia running back, but they've been in to see him a lot. They're high on. Knaz Sullivan, I think a really underrated player in the state of Virginia, number 8 player. Elijah Butler, Kimari Hudson, another top 10 guy in Virginia, and Ziggy Miller, as we just showed his profile. So look at that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 names on that first weekend. Then going to the next weekend, you got Gary Walker, Rico Jackson, Tajay Watson, we just touched on. Xavier Perkins was someone who goes to Durham and Duke, or from Durham and Duke. Wasn't able to make it because of snow, but on that same day, he set up an official visit, so they were able to back and get that set up. And then Akedron, or A.K. Kermel, was able to set his official visit today for June 5th to the 7th, another North Carolina guy. So they've done work, and that's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the last 2 weekends, this is what it looks like. You got top 247 wide receiver Shannon Harris, who I think is a dynamic prospect, has all the traits, could probably run track in college. He's that type of athlete. Speedster. And then June 19th to 21st, Aiden Gibson, another running back from South Carolina they're high on, and Anthony Henderson, the aforementioned Suffolk wide receiver. But you can see very distinctly you have 3 over those last 2 weekends, and it's very early. But that first weekend you have 9, and the second weekend you have already 6 on the books. So it's 15 on those first couple of weekends compared to 3 over those final 2 right now. I think this is definitely a very, very targeted and purposeful approach to get those guys on campus early and trying to get them shut down, as well with what the spring game official visit is going to look like. Very clearly, we're going to make that a very massive event, not only when they're messaging of trying to get it sold out, 65,000 people, but to get that ambiance for the recruits as well. The sidelines at Penn State are notorious for being larger than really a recruiting visit weekend Virginia Tech's ever seen. So I think some of that infrastructure, and I see some of the comments already, is probably going to get into some of those questions about the adjustments that Virginia Tech's going to have to make facility-wise, staffing-wise, resources-wise, and just scheduling-wise on some of these visits. Because it's a whole new process coming in. So that's some of the recruiting recap, official visit, early buzz, some of that talk. If you have any specific questions, please jump those in the live chat. We'd be more than happy to talk about that. The offseason never sleeps, so there's always a ton of stuff going on. But yeah, definitely that. As we keep rolling on, I think important thing to note that if you missed it, last show we went into just a little bit of team scoop at the basketball game, and we had heard this already a little bit stemming from just around the team. Logan Howland, the Oklahoma transfer offensive tackle, he went out on the court when the football team made their appearance on the basketball court at the Duke game. He was in a sling. Now, it was heard but not really verified that he had a procedure, has had labrum surgery in the past. Looks like obviously he's had another procedure done. So I would expect him to be down for most, potentially likely all of spring. And, it's just another procedure. So that's a personnel thing. I think it'll be really interesting depending to see what coaches we talk to on Wednesday, just seeing, their approach. You bring in another young tackle like Justin Terry from Ohio State. How does he make that step? Johnny Garrett going to be a leader on this offense. I'm going to see a larger rep share as well with guys like Aiden Lynch, younger guy making the move up. So it sounds like that's a tough first injury. Haven't heard much else on the injury front, but we're talking to some coaches here soon to see where they stand in winter workouts and such. Have heard very positive things from Sheldon Robinson in winter workouts, Cable Spencer. Those are 2 other guys that just in hearing different things. Sherrod Henderson's added some good weight, just some initial hearings on the team. And like I said, they're still building their board. But yeah, we'll get into some just, I think, around college football, and we'll get into the questions. So today, relevant to Virginia Tech, not directly on the schedule, but legendary qualifies head coach Gus Malzahn from his time at Auburn, bringing that team to the national championship, retired this late into the season. So it's February 2nd, signing day is Wednesday, I guess, but really you're already into winter workouts. Mike Norvell is going to be calling plays for Florida State. I think that really has implications in the ACC. When James Franklin enters a group where Florida State is very down, Mike Norvell is very much a lame duck coach in the situation that he's walking into, and then to lose Malzahn for the season, you bring in Ashton Daniels, sort of that package was built to play for Malzahn, and that deteriorates and he decides to retire. I think Florida State is – the ACC is a chaotic league, as you can see from year to year, but definitely tames any expectations there with that schedule. They get Alabama out of conference. They might get Notre Dame. I know they get Miami. It's another tough slate. So I think that's really relevant. I'm not sure he qualifies for the Hall of Fame, but still a really, really good coach and someone who, very transformative in the offensive game. And pretty much a ton of offensive coordinators did a lot of taking from Gus Malzahn there in the mid-2000s or mid-2010s when he installed that at Auburn. So, yeah, definitely something to note in the ACC. Thought that was pretty big news today. And also just talking out loud here, when you look at the overall landscape of college football, and it is so radically and wildly changed when you look at recruiting and how that's kind of waned off and it's all led into the portal. And like just randomly running from class to class, getting this bean haircut, and, you're just sitting in the shower. I mean, you're thinking about college football because what else would you be thinking about? And like Indiana is I don't know if it really got its shine that the Indiana Hoosiers are the national college football champions of the world for 2025, 2026. Like, this is a program you almost can't wrap your head around. If you're going to a time machine 2 years ago and the turnaround of a coach from IUP to Elon to JMU to install that, it's going to give a lot of false hope to a lot of different programs because it's not easily installable. It's not a plug and play. You don't download it on your Mac and then you win 10, 13 games, 18 games. But, I mean, it is so just radically impressive in this day and age of college football to bring in transfers and install that. I mean, that just wasn't possible. When you look at those Bama teams and those Clemson teams, Georgia, when they went back-to-back, the stockpile of talent, it's spread out so much more now. And I think that really shows the emphasis on coaching. And I think James Franklin's built out a really good staff. I think a lot of new coaches have built out really nice staffs. But, like, you'll see at the Broyles Award, I believe next week, like, Indiana retains Mike Shanahan as the offensive coordinator. They retain Brian Haynes, who's probably going to win the Broyles Award on defense. And it's just an insane job that this age of college football is not those massive brands and that you can really resurrect a program. Now, you're going to have resources and alignment behind you, but we'll get into some of it with facilities. Virginia Tech, on a Blacksburg scale, as we're here right now, is definitely making that move. I mean, you've seen Vanderbilt get out in the top 247. The final rankings came out today. The top 2 ranked quarterbacks, where are they committed? The top 2 players in the class. Keyshawn Henderson committed to Houston, and I think Houston's going to be a team certainly to watch next year. Willie Fritz, they've got a ton of talent down there. And Vanderbilt, Jared Kurtz committing to Vanderbilt. It's so spread out. I believe 17 or something in that range, 17 of the 32 5-stars committed to different schools. It's just a very, very different age of college football. And when you're scrolling through the top 247 today and thinking about what Indiana was able to do, just wildly impressive. So that was just a thought on overall college football. On the schedule, just looking at it, I think that SMU game, I don't know. Like, when you look at what the ACC odds are right now, as you just scroll through, I really do think that SMU game could be – I think people are maybe a little down on SMU just in general at this point. Virginia Tech goes at Clemson, then comes off a bye to SMU. They're incredible at home. I think that stretch, you're really ending with a murderer's row. I know Clemson might be down, but they feel good about their quarterback. A lot of people do down there. And then that SMU stretch into Stanford – it's just a really, really tough ending stretch. So we'll dive more into the schedule in the coming weeks because it's the offseason. I don't know if we'll find anything else to talk about. But that was just one more thing. And before we shift off just more basic points, a couple things before we jump into the questions. If you have specific questions, dump them in the live chat. Excited to get to those. And we had some pre-fired on the website that we'll get to. Kamon Spell, the number 1 running back across all websites and services, committed to Georgia today, and he's from McKeesport, Pennsylvania, right? Sort of in that Pittsburghish region, I believe. Committed to Penn State originally. James Franklin decommitted after the James Franklin firing. And this is one where Penn State felt really good, even in the waning weeks, the last couple of weeks with Matt Campbell and what they were able to do. And this pretty radically shifted pretty quickly in the last couple of weeks where Georgia has rocketed up the board. Georgia, I think, is another team that's probably being slept on for 2026 when you hear Oregon, Notre Dame, Indiana, of course, Miami up there. But Georgia's got a ton coming back, got their quarterback. And I think they've done a really nice job on the trail as well. So to flip him from up there in Pennsylvania, that was one where Notre Dame and Penn State were really making big pushes, especially Penn State as of late. And he commits to Georgia. So the number 1 running back in 27 off the board to Georgia, and that connection to Penn State and James Franklin. So I thought that was really interesting seeing that today. The top 247 dropped. No real movement for Virginia Tech players. Terry Wiggins, I think, slid down 1 spot in the top 247, but he remained. Tommy Wilder stayed a 4-star. There was no movement for Virginia or Virginia Tech recruits, so it all stayed about the same. I don't think that affected the class ranking at all. I'll double check right now, but I believe they finished at – so Virginia Tech – well, signing day could move this a little bit. Overall rank for 24/7 Sports, Virginia Tech finishes with the 23rd ranked class. So from 125 to 23, very impressive. Now that can alter after Wednesday. I don't expect it moving very much. But yeah, also one other nugget in talking to a recruit, very interesting offensive line coach, Matt Moore, is the third most first team and second team All-American offensive lineman that he's coached out of the active O-line coaches currently coaching in college. So very under the radar. I know he was dealt a tough hand coming here, not really being able to bring much personnel except Kyle Altuner, Tomas Remack, Lucas Austin, and Gavin Crawford. So kind of had his hands tied with the personnel he was given last season. But this is someone, Wyatt Millum, Zach Frazier, get them to the NFL, really develop college players, wasn't able to recruit at that high clip, and especially now with the Franklin effect. And you talk to these recruits coming out of this weekend, and that Franklin effect is real. The energy feels palpable. It's different. And that's resonating not only with the recruits you're getting on campus, but the recruits that they will land this upcoming cycle. It's going to be at a much different clip than what's been prevalent over the last decade. And I think that is something that's under the radar. It's his development of talent, and he wasn't even always picking from that top shelf or that real value aisle. So I think that's something to know. It was really impressive to see that stat. But with that, if you're just joining, make sure to subscribe to the show, like the video, follow on all the socials. The support has been absolutely insane, even through the offseason. We've got a ton of awesome stuff coming up. I know I've been saying it, but I'm so excited to drop it. Because it's fun for me too. I love what I do, and you guys make it possible. So follow on the socials at Kolby_Crawford and head over to vtscoop.com. Great VIP promo, 2 months for $1 or 50% off annual for all the scoops. Be first at work, always be in the know, vtscoop.com. But yeah, with that, let's jump into some questions. We had one submitted on the website by Ty_Out7. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the support over on vtscoop.com. He says, who are some players we need to monitor coming out of this weekend? That's a great question. So some to watch, I would certainly say 2028 quarterback Caden Kraft. I think they made a pretty big move there. His mom's an alumni. We talked about it on the last episode, but the number 6 overall quarterback in the 2028 class. Now, he's not planning to make a decision until after his junior year. So there's still, 12 months likely before you really get in that. But they have made a substantial move. And I think Franklin's pitch of saying, and I think this is something I probably should have led the show with as well, but if you're still sticking around, like they are very, I think, targeted on their approach of wanting to develop their quarterbacks of the future through the high school ranks, not through the transfer portal. Now, this is clearly a different situation where you come in, you get fired from your last place, you have to overturn a roster. So, yeah, you bring in Ethan Grunkmeyer, but guess what? That was someone he recruited out of high school, Bryce Baker, through the portal, but that was someone Danny O'Brien, James Franklin were very familiar with and recruited hard out of high school. I think that's something they're going to continue to do, which is very interesting when you look at Indiana, one with the transfer quarterback. Michigan, I guess Michigan didn't win with the transfer quarterback. Ohio State won with the transfer quarterback. Just all the 4 quarterbacks in the semifinals this year. Trinidad Chambliss, transfer. Carson Beck, transfer. Indiana quarterback, transfer. Dante Moore, transfer. It just seems everything you're going. Texas Tech going out and landing Brendan Sorsby, Sam Levitt to LSU. It just seems like this premium is on older guys. And yeah, it sounds like James Franklin, Ty Howell's approach is still going to be go out and develop these guys through high school, which is definitely something interesting to hear as they continue on that path and as college football evolves. So I think that's one at the quarterback position. Chris Whitehead is another one that I think they made a big move on. Other names to monitor. It's a great question. Langston Pridgeon, they made a good move with him in 2028. Pulling up some notes right now. They made a big move with, even though Kamari Hudson didn't go on his visit, they locked in an OV with him. So I think that's one to keep an eye on. Quintarius Gibson, Mooney Gibson had a good visit. Jordan Karoff is one we touched on in the last video, the tight end that wasn't even almost expected to come. Sounds like Ty Howell had really, really good talks with him. Quincy Gilmer, wide receiver. Now it's like they're still shaping out this board. Trying to think about who else would qualify. It's a good question. Ran from class, so didn't have D1 prep. Zavon Miller, Ziggy Miller from Huguenot. I think they did well there in the 27 class. Kai Rayner, brother Zahir Rayner, made a good move. But they're still shaking out that board. So priorities are going to have to become more abundantly clear here in the coming days. Trying to think about who else from Sunday as I'm just looking through. I think Brock Frisbee offered him. Arnold Mugarwa from Johnsontown, Pennsylvania, Richland High School. I think Virginia Tech put themselves in a really good spot, but that's another wide receiver where you're going to have to shape that board first because they're high on a lot of guys, but you just have to see who's going to be a take at the end of the day. And there's one more name I'm searching for. Tajay Watson, they did well with. Caden Kraft. Weston Hicks, offensive lineman from Connecticut. Ooh, Josh Fassbender, I forgot. The defensive lineman from Cincinnati, Ohio. I should have touched on him. I think Virginia Tech made a really big move. Now, Chaos is going to have to do the same on the sport, but I think Virginia Tech probably is almost the leader for Josh Fassbender from St. Xavier in Cincinnati, Ohio. And, yeah, I'm not going to bore anyone else anymore with dead air time, but I think those are some names to certainly watch. But great question. If you want to submit questions on the website, make sure to go do that before we hop on here because I'll make sure to get to them all. But, yeah, let's jump in the live chat. Subscribe if you're just joining, like the video. Off-season, we never sleep around here. Always running. Ping-pong ball across Blacksburg and beyond. Mike Snow, this is really good. I touched on this in the live on Saturday. Mike Snow says, so how many recruits from this weekend may be on the verge of a commitment? No guys are on commitment watch. They didn't push for any commitments this weekend. They're still certainly building out their board. Now, there were a couple guys they probably could have got in the boat, but they did not push for a commitment from anyone. No one's really on commitment watch. Now, there's guys that have listed VT as their leader and their top three, but it's just shaping out that board and seeing who's going to be a take as that becomes clearer, as they continue to get their bearings, set more official visits, and really get their board all together. I mean, this coaching staff was put together, and they've been on the road. So I led the show by saying February, it works out that it's going to be dead because they're going to have some decisions to make, and that is definitely going to be a part of it. So good question, but I wouldn't say many recruits from this weekend are on the verge of a commitment. But like not coming off cheap and saying this, Virginia Tech made a really big move for a lot of these recruits this weekend. Jeff Hodge, this is a really great question. Kolby, any talk of a football-only facility? There's definitely talk of a football-only facility. I dropped this in a comment on the website of an article of a recruit. But the bottom floor of Merriman used to house nutrition. Nutrition has been completely relocated outside of Merriman and into Castle. This is making way for new office space, new just general spaces, amenities. I mean, they're going to completely reshape Merriman. And James Franklin and co are definitely pounding on the table for infrastructure changes for a new football-only facility. And if you can move all the other sports into Merriman. So there's definitely talk of it. When those plans really come to more fruition, I think the source will be Doug Bowman. Shout out VT Scoop, FOIA King, Doug Bowman. He's always on top of that. There's certainly a very large effort in behind getting those plans and figuring it out with the space as a try and transform the athletics district. Obviously, we've talked about heating the indoor on the show as they're making those changes. They've already made sweeping changes in Merriman from lighting, flooring, just different signage. They're changing things. I mean, they're going to uproot a lot of that bottom space as nutrition is moving out. So they're doing a ton of renovations, but I think there could be some large-scale building, obviously, further down the line. But yes, a ton of talk of a football-only facility. Mike Snow, what was the total number of recruits on campus this weekend? That's tough. Total number, they had close to 50 on Saturday. And Sunday, they had in the 15 to 20 range. So I would say 70 to 75, probably rough estimate total on campus this weekend. They were projecting, probably without the snow, 100, 110 guys. So they were still able to get, I would say, roughly 70 on campus, which is great. You know, you had to cancel the one the week prior, and you had 2 days to try and make up a month's worth of recruiting before it goes dead all of February. So to get close to 70 guys on in 2 days, very busy 2 days. Shout out to obviously all of them and the support staff making that happen. But yeah, it was a very busy weekend, but very productive. Even for the guys that didn't make it. A lot of guys that didn't make it, they were able to lock in OVs even virtually. Got Tom G. What do you think the top priorities are for the next high school class? Great question. I think every high school class is going to be leaned in on quarterback position. You have to have a quarterback in your class. That's a premier position. Now, Virginia Tech is certainly a little bit behind the 8 ball for the 2027 class. Now, Franklin has relationships with a lot of these quarterbacks. from his past connections, but Virginia Tech is a little behind the eight ball. New places, and quarterbacks are almost a whole cycle ahead of time committing. So they're going to try and get a guy in the 27 class as well. I think it'll be interesting in-state. Your options, they hosted Kevin Parker. We'll see. Lonnie Andrews committed to UVA. Could they make a push there? We'll see. But, I mean, even if you get one of those guys, I think you're certainly probably going to get another guy to pair with him. So I would – 2 quarterbacks in the 27 class, or maybe one. We'll see. But quarterbacks at the top of the board. It seems running back in the offers they've sent out and guys they've hosted, I think running back would be a priority. Going to take a couple wide receivers, as you always do in every class. I'm very fascinated, even myself, to see who really shakes out the top of that wide receiver board. DeMarcus Brown, Ivy, and Lewis in State, both those guys are heavily interested in. Talk about Choo Harris getting an official visit. Anthony Henderson, who really rises up out of those guys who have said official visits, because already how many wide receivers have said official visits? We've got Anthony Henderson from Kings Fork, Shannon Harris, as we just touched on, Tajay Watson, Ivy and Lewis. You're involved in DeMarcus Brown. You had a ton of other wide receivers on campus. So seeing which guys they float for there, I feel good with Virginia Tech and Ivy and Lewis. Feel good with them and Anthony Henderson, but we'll see how that all shakes out. Jeff Hodges, VT Scoop has to chip in for a more professional background behind you. Need something more snazzy than a whiteboard. Look, man, it's Kolby's Corner. We operate on a grease board. It's not polished, but we're getting better, So we're grinding out. If we got to go draw something up back there, we'll lay it out. So this is Kolby's Corner. We're not in some high-tech studio here. Mike Stowe, there's nothing but studs this weekend. Franklin and staff are making noise every day. Has been turned up to 1,000 since his arrival. Certainly that was echoed by recruits. They had a ton of really high-profile guys. As we touched on, if you're just joining, they hosted a ton of high-profile guys. And, I mean, it's palpable. I mean, I know you're months away from games, but only 4 months away from the spring game. And I think we're 2 months. And that's where they're going to try and make a really massive statement about this is where we are, this is how we're going to operate. And it's just a whole different energy that I think that's been missing for quite a while. Mari Smith, is there a time for the spring game yet? Nope, still TBD on that. Ryan, does James Franklin have a helicopter to land on high school fields yet? If they need to do that, they will be able to facilitate that as they've done in the past. Does not have a personal helicopter, but they have obviously connections in the Southwest Virginia region with people who have connections to make that happen. Got Not Your Business 3333. Love the content, kid. Appreciate it, man. What are the overall vibes feel for a bunch of these top kids? Do you see us actually in the fight for these top 100 kids? Without a doubt. And it's honestly very crazy saying that. I'll pull it up right now, the 247 Sports top 10 in the state of Virginia, because in the past, and it's tough, but just to be completely honest, Virginia Tech is always going to get mentioned for a lot of those type guys in Virginia just for being the state school, but they're never really going to get a real look. We say that over on vtscoop.com, and in the past, just perceptionally, it was completely different. And you can't really quantify the James Franklin effect. And it's not to be glazing or anything else. It's just his track record carries weight with recruits and families of this age. They just does. His production and the way he operates, it really does stand out. Like Chris Whitehead, to get him on campus, someone that did not really even give Virginia Tech the time of day to get involved with him. Hearing Carter Jones, Coast Virginia offensive tackle, it was pretty much all but a done deal to maybe go to another school. Virginia Tech has become a very real option for him. Number 3 player in the state, top 247 guy. Junior Sanders. Now, wasn't able to make it to campus this weekend, weather-related. But, I mean, Virginia Tech's in the conversation for these top 5 guys. DeMarcus Brown, Virginia Tech offered him. They've been to see him, trying to flip him. Ivy and Lewis. Knaz Sullivan at the St. James Academy. They like him. Kamari Hudson just locked in an official visit. Sam Faneuil, they're trying all get out to get him on campus in the spring as well. Benedictine tight end. I mean, those are six or seven guys in the top 10 that they feel really highly about. And that Virginia Tech, I think, has a real chance with, not just me coming on here trying to sell subscriptions, sell followers, genuinely that's where they're at with a lot of those guys. You talk about Shannon Harris, he's going to have a ton of suitors. North Carolina's going to be in the mix, but Virginia Tech getting that official visit, they're giving them the time of the day. No one locks in a courtesy official visit anymore. Gone are those days in this NIL. There is no more courtesy official visit. If you're setting up a visit, I mean, it's very like it's a big deal. And to get those guys on campus, it's not something to look over. So they're definitely in the mix. Great question. Mike Snow, any other 27, 28 quarterbacks we're going after? Like I said, this February period is going to become a lot clearer as they really establish their big board on what guys. The class of 2028, I would definitely look at Caden Kraft, a name that visited the connection, top 6 quarterback, top 75, I believe, top 80 player in the country, very highly rated. Him for 2028. Their 2028 board is going to be massive, though. There's going to be a ton of other guys going through. But for 2027, we'll see. I mean, they're definitely going to evaluate some guys, and they're going to bring a quarterback in the class. I would keep an eye on in the state of Virginia, Lonnie Andrews. Well, we'll see what happens there. But, yeah. Got some good questions here. Appreciate all the participation in the live chat. It creates a great discussion. Drop any feedback in the live chat. Trying to keep evolving the show as we just keep adding more layers to it. If you're liking what you're seeing, let me know. If you want me to change in what I'm doing, let me know. But, yeah, keeping the questions coming always helps. So if you're just joining, subscribe. Like the video. It's free. It only signs you up to tell you when I'm going live, and it helps me out a ton. So, yeah. Great question here from Mike Snow. Thoughts on Dabo calling out Ole Miss? What do you think if anything happens to Ole Miss and the SEC? It's a great question. I think it's great, that a coach would come out on the record and not just complain about tampering, but bring receipts. I think it was also interesting that none of those receipts were passed out. That was just evidence. Now, I'm not saying that it's not real or anything, but, if it is, the NCAA will go, and being the very hard arm enforcing body that they are, they levy probably no penalties because they really have no authoritarian power over this. And what do you think will happen to Ole Miss and the SEC? I don't think Greg Sankey's going to punish his institution for anything like this. I mean, you saw what just happened in the ACC with Darian Mensah in Miami. Did Jim Phillips step up and have a conversation with those member institutions and say this is something that can't happen? No, it's the absolute wild, wild west. I think it's good on Dabo to point out how crazy of a time we're going in that. I mean, it puts you in a tough spot. You grow up a certain way, $8 million and $4 million. Either way, it's a ton of money. But I'm talking about Darren Manson now specifically. But it's just, I don't know. You wrestle with it all the time. You have your manic moments or just whatever moments, your come to Jesus moments you want to say, where it's, if you have, I think football is the ultimate team sport. It's the ultimate just like developer of people. When you see all the stats of people that were captains on football teams or just any collegiate sports teams and how they succeed and future stages of business, it's a shame when you see a lot of that go by the wayside. Your word means a lot. And, you give your program or a coach or someone your word. I think that has to have value, and it's really hard. And that's an issue when coaching. And that's why the NFL and college have always been different. That relationship of being a professional. And now these guys are getting paid. So you treat them a little differently. Like when you look down to Florida and I know I'm going a little off topic here, but when you look down to Florida and John Summerall is having his players earn the logo. You have to earn to have the Gator head yet. You haven't earned anything. So you have to earn that. I think that's like going with I'm making $1 million. I'm a freshman. Like, why do I have to earn the logo? It's just changing times. So I know I've gone a little off track. Thoughts on Dabo calling out Ole Miss? I think it's great. Well, do I think anything will really come out of it? No. This is going to continually happen. Like, spoiler alert, Virginia Tech tampers. Every school tampers. Like, I know the Kamari Copeland clip went crazy. Every school tampers. It's just the way it is because there's no enforcement arm. It's free agency every cycle. So it's pretty wild, like when you hear the stories. And yeah, college football. I mean, I love it. Like I said, thinking about it in the shower earlier, like it's all you really think about. But when you see just cracks starting to form, it is tough. So I think it's great on him calling out Ole Miss. But why would Pete Golding not operate that way? Why would he not? He bettered his roster, and he's likely going to face no penalties. You see what the CSC is doing. They're their own independent arm. What control do they have to levy any punishment on NIL deals? It's just more temporary roadblocks that will get worked around because and the university presidents, Doug Bowman always says this, the coaches want to complain, but to the NCAA or whoever will complain to your university presidents and athletic directors to make a change. They don't want to make a change. I have a great clip that I should honestly pull up and play from Bud Elliott. Like if you go back on my Twitter and like a little bit down videos, Bud Elliott touched on this. Like the presidents of these institutions and athletic directors, they don't care. Like they're willing to put these coaches through it and deal with all this headache. I use a little nicer words because they're making so much money and like they're just profiteering off it. So I know I've gone off on a tangent here. I feel like if we were just sitting around the table with everyone in this live chat, I could go for an hour talking about all the other stuff. But yeah, I think good on him for saying it, but nothing's really going to change. And I don't see a path to collective bargaining or any real alignment against the conferences or conference commissioners. I mean, the conference commissioners can't even come together and finalize a college football playoff. They've had to continue to push that and kick that can down the road. So I don't expect any resolution on tampering. I don't expect any resolution on targeting or any of the such. Maybe I'm cynical. I don't know. We'll see. Those are my thoughts, though. Thanks for the question. Nice little rant session. Jeff Hodges, north end zone, permanent structure with suites coming in lane. I think that you're definitely building towards that. The north end zone is the clear path part of Lane Stadium that you can look at and see some pretty instant upgrades coming. Doug Bowman on the site is, sort of fantasize when you go to the Atlanta Tunnel in Mercedes-Benz. I think that's one that really sticks out in my mind going there for the opener this year. Probably going to go see a World Cup game there later this year. I'm pretty stoked about. But, as you walk out, the suites have the open glass to the tunnel as the guys walk out. I mean, could you imagine selling that as an experience to have that tunnel open for as guys are going out for Enter Sandman, having that, suites are so massive at all these stadiums like Castle Coliseum. When they finally renovate or rebuild that, they're going to have suites. So having that experience on Lane, that field level, probably going to have to relocate the band there somewhere. But yeah, I could definitely see that coming. Mike, so that's a great question. Anyone joining? I know we've ping-ponged all around the questions, but I love that. In any given year, how many 5-stars are there? So there's 32 5-stars every year which marks a 32 first-round NFL draft pick. So every single year, it doesn't change. There's always 32 5-stars. So it's a completely very exclusive group to get into. So yeah, 32 5-stars every year for the 32 first-round NFL selections. Got Andrew just got here. Sorry if already answered, but any chances we add another 2026 recruit on signing day? Great question. And as we touched about, signing days are going to be not tracking any 2026 guys at this point for signing day. They're all done there, which is kind of just crazy for the sign of the times of signing day. Ryan, any word of anyone not being happy leaving their visit? No. And that's, it's sort of something we joke about. Like no one has a bad visit, right? Instantly, a lot of the feedback is always positive out of visits, but you're not going to take 100 kids, right? Like 100 guys visited, and they're all not going to be part of the class. So visits pretty typically go pretty well. I mean, like we'll report if something. I mean, sometimes visits do go awry. A golf cart breaks or someone has an allergic reaction to food. Like crazy stuff does go off like that. There wasn't really an instance of that this go around. It sounds like someone you throw up a slide for a recruit and their name's wrong on there. So yeah, there are potential bad visits. But no reports of that this time. Good question. Got Andrew. Was that the last junior day? If so, when can recruits come back on an unofficial visit? Great question again, man. You guys are absolutely killing it tonight. It was the last junior day for the January period because February goes all dead. So the next time they can come back for unofficials is when spring practice starts and they can come up to see spring practice in that. So those will start to ramp back up in March. All of February is going to be completely off. Which I think is good for the coaches coming out of the portal and recruiting and that craziness. I don't know. I'm one of the people who's pounding the fist for the calendar changes. The coaches said it. It just seems backwards all the time. But, as much as I complain about it, I love it. So I should just suck it up too. Got Jeff Hodges. We'll get tricky only having 70 official visits. How Franklin prioritizes those visits will be interesting. Yeah. Guys will add, guys will be dropped. It's going to be a consistent musical chair. So I would implore you to get over to vtscoop.com because on that pinned thread, we'll have all the updates as guys get added, as guys drop. If you commit somewhere else, if you commit to tech, it just changes the calculus a little bit. So only having 70, but the numbers always work out. So head over to vtscoop.com, check out that pinned thread. But yeah, Andrew, any chance of the UVA verbal commitment who's rated top 5 in 2027? I think wide receiver. Good question. Talking about DeMarcus Brown, wide receiver from right down the road, North Cross, Roanoke, Virginia. They're pushing Fontel Mines, Ty Howell. They're definitely a chance there. Virginia Tech's trying to get involved. They've been down to the school a couple times now. So that one's definitely not over. I would say there is a chance there. Now, Virginia and other schools are certainly in the picture, obviously verbally committed to Virginia, but Virginia Tech's going to make a push there, and it's one that I think they will be in the fight. Ashton Crowder, this is a good question. Appreciate Ashton always hanging out in here. Is there a chance the spring game is at night? Haven't heard that. Haven't honestly put too much thought to that, but I guess it's a possibility, albeit though I would not likely. I doubt it. I'm trying to think if they've had the blue-white game at night. I don't know if they have. I highly doubt it, though. But good question to sort of just think about. Mike Snow, who was the recruit you were most stoked about this weekend? It's a great question. I think 2028 quarterback Caden Kraft, because quarterback is very premier position, and I think to make a very serious move for a top 100, top 80, number 6 quarterback in the country. I know it's a cycle away, but Virginia Tech really hasn't been in discussions with guys in that caliber of quarterback for quite a while. So I think always looking at premier positions, him, Chris Whitehead, edge rusher, premier position, number 1 player in Virginia. I think they made a solid move there. I think those two guys, just 2 premier positions, definitely guys to keep an eye on. Olu, the offensive tackle from New Jersey, another really big one. That's a great question. Ryan Wooten, his teammate from New Jersey. Karoff, the tight end. Anthony Henderson's a nice prospect. So quite a few guys. Those are some that stood out to me, though. Let me see if any more. But I think those are some that just instantly off the top of the head that I was definitely stoked on. Love the comment was stoked. I'll always answer something that says stoked. Oh, Ziggy Miller, safety, top prospect, Huguenot, good high school to get an in at. Tajay Watson. Ooh, Xavier Perkins didn't make it, but he stepped the OV. If he made it, that would have been one. But those are some names. Definitely, I think the quarterback, though, sticks out the most. Got Tom G. Not a question, but I really hope Adams can see the field next season. Duke gave a slight view of his skill set at the Mayo Bowl last year. You know, this is Brody Adams fan club show program. We'll always puppet and spread that news. I think Keelan Adams is in line for a big year coming off an injury. You know, you got to get right, get back in the swing of things, but the talent's there. Just got to stay healthy and put it all together. And I will promote, if you're just new to the channel or checking it out, if you want to go check out on the YouTube channel in the playlist, Kolby's Corner Conversations, got interviews up with Tyson Flowers, Keelan Adams, Chance Wiggins. Just talked to Jeff Exnor as well with Isaiah Brown Murray, all longer form interviews over on the YouTube channel, sort of get familiar with a lot of these guys that haven't seen the field as much. I think that's really great content. Going to be having some more of those come out here soon. Trying to have Josh Clark on the show. If you're watching, let's get that set up and locked in. But yeah. Hokie Patriot, any word on the new enrolled portal and freshman recruits and how they're settling in and working towards next year? As of right now, positive returns. You know, there's only but so much you can take from winter workouts. Trying to think about true freshman Matthew Lamar. Sounds like he's had a really great kickoff, and I've been beating that drum. We also have a conversation up with him over on the playlist in the YouTube channel. Very impressive young man. Hasn't been playing college football for the longest time, but a true freshman from up there, Patriot High School in Northern Virginia. I think that's a true freshman that physically looks the part. Troy Hune's on campus. Messiah Mickens putting in work. I think the weight room and that this first year is going to be really big for him as well. Terry Wiggins, top 247 linebacker, official 127, finishes the highest ranked player in Virginia Tech's class as the final rankings came out today. That's really, really massive to get him on campus, get his weight up. Transfers you would expect. Luke Reynolds, Ethan Grunkmeyer, 2 of those high-rated guys. Keyshawn Brown sort of be leading from the front. But yeah. Real Dino Kid. Apparently, Virginia Tech doesn't recruit linebackers anymore. Didn't want to bore everyone with just hours and hours of me going through individual prospects. Tried to make it a digestible format if you're just joining. Virginia Tech, they're definitely recruiting linebackers. I think, a good point of this. Like when you look at Noah Chambers, last fall camp, just height, weight, speed, body typing. Like that was someone, I think on our first episode of this show, it was like that's someone that's going to pop. And by the end of the season, you definitely saw the flashes there. And that's one that you recruited out of DeMatha is a big, big win, without a doubt. And yeah, they're hosted other guys. Caleb Spencer. We'll see how the linebacker room shakes out. Now, there has been issues in the past, and that's ironic because Brent Pry's coaching linebackers, and a lot of that recruiting was under his view, recruiting linebackers. But that's not to say that they're not recruiting or hosting any linebackers. Wakanda Forever 32. How are things going with winter workouts? Any weight room standouts? As of right now, as I touched on, I heard things about Montavious Cunningham we talked about, Sheldon Robinson, true freshman Matthew Lamar. Obviously, Kamari Copeland's going to be in there. I've heard some things about Sherrod Henderson. So those are some of those things. I think we'll get a clearer picture in the coming weeks. I mean, the weight room, it's just make sure you get your work in. Andrew saying Heath, the wide receiver, came back, right? You have Takai Heath from Richmond came back. Him and Tyseer Denmark are intriguing. Yeah, definitely. I think Tyseer Denmark's a very under-the-radar pickup there late. Penn State, like where they sat with him and tried to get him to come back. So that was big for Virginia Tech. The future of wide receiver is going to be, I think you'll get a much clearer picture after spring, but that's a very convoluted room, and someone's going to take a big step. Keyshawn Brown, Aiden Green, those are some pretty big staples, but there's a lot of opportunity for younger players to step up. Yeah, Ethan Huey, 5534. What happened with Isaiah Pena, the 2026 tight end commit? Actually, I have an interview with him as well on the channel. He said, saw he committed to a lower level school. Yep. That was where that was a situation where, he was still evaluating options in that early signing period, new staff, didn't feel as comfortable. And then, just as the numbers in the board worked out, started getting visits and visiting other places and decided to commit, I believe, to Southern maybe. So yeah, that was just one where, just mutual understanding. He committed, after Pry was fired. So that was a little bit of an odd deal, but yeah. Yeah. All right. I think that'll do it for tonight. We're close to 50 minutes on a Monday. Okay. Thank you for coming tonight, but definitely on Wednesday night, we will be talking to some coaches. I'm not sure. I saw questions about the time. Okay, hang on one more. I got Andrew Baffy, JP Oates, the flip from JMU, JP Oates from up there at LaSalle College in Pennsylvania. What position do you like him at? I think he projects at linebacker for Virginia Tech. I think he'll do well there. They can move him up to edge. I know he played tight end in high school as well, but I think he probably projects as a linebacker. Good question. All right. Wrapping up on that, though, good show tonight. Appreciate everyone joining in. Had a ton of great questions. The feedback is great because of live chat. I want everyone to have a chance to interact, and I think that's a really nice, fun aspect. So thank you guys for participating. It helps me out a ton as well. So this Monday, next show will be Wednesday night, same time, 7:30 most likely. Not exactly sure what time we'll be talking to the coaches, but we should have a ton of content to cover, getting updates from the coaches. Haven't talked to them in a while. So we'll have a ton of content coming from that on the channel, and we'll be going live. As of right now, at 7:30, could be potentially a little bit later. Make sure to subscribe, like, and be ready for that because only a ton more stuff coming out, and the sport has been insane. So subscribe, like the video, and yeah, we will see you Wednesday night. Till then, enjoy some dinner, be safe, stay safe on these roads. Might still get some more snow. And until the next time, be kind to one another. Peace out. God bless.